Rhoda from the West Springfield Public Library. How do animals adapt to their environment? Well, when we try something but it doesn't work, we change how we do it. If the new change works, then we tend to keep that behavior because it was successful. This means that we change our behavior to fit the new circumstance. In other words, we adapt. For the animal kingdom, adaptation is all about survival. When the environment changes dramatically, some animals die, and some move to another location, and some develop adaptation over generations that will help them survive. Adaptations can be the result of evolution. Evolution is a change in the species over a long period of time, and adaptations usually occur because a gene mutates or changes by accident. Some mutations can help an animal survive better than other species without the mutation. For example, imagine a bird species, and one day a bird is born with a beak that is longer than the beak of the other birds in its species. The longer beak helps the bird catch the food, and because the bird can catch more food, it's healthier than the other birds and lives longer and breeds more. That bird passes that gene of the longer beak on to its offspring, and they also live longer and have more offspring, and the gene continues to be inherited generation after generation. Adaptations can be a lot of different things, but they generally fall into one of these groups. Behavioral, which are things that animals do to make their life a lot easier in their habitat, such as meerkats living in the ground so they can stay safe from predators. Physiological, which is special ways an animal's bodies work to help them survive, in whatever conditions they're in, such as camels in the desert conserving water by being able to go for days without drinking. And then there's structural, which are things that an animal's inner or outer bodies that help them adapt to their environment, such as the giraffe's tall neck as a means to get the leaves in the tall trees. Migration is an example of behavioral adaptation that some birds or animals use. Migration is when an animal moves from one location to another. Animals typically migrate during the winter months when it gets cold. They do this so that they can have babies or find food or survive. A bird called the Arctic tern migrates from the North Pole and flies to Antarctica. A monarch butterfly travels south and west in the autumn. A monarch migrates because they would die if it gets too cold. The blue whale, which is the largest animal in the world, will migrate 16,000 miles. The humpback whales go all the way from the North Pole to the South Pole. Hibernation is physiological and a behavioral adaptation. Some bears can sleep up to 7 months, while animals like skunks and chipmunks and raccoons wake up for short periods of time to go to the bathroom or to gather food. Behavioral adaptations can also allow a species to act in a certain way to avoid a predator. For example, sloths learn to move very, very slow in the trees to make them hard to spot. Some structural adaptations allow an animal to escape, such as lizards, with tails that snap off when a predator tries to capture it. Or they can make animals difficult to eat, such as the armadillo. This unique animal is covered with armored plates, and they can roll into a tight ball when it feels threatened. Now, some of the most attractive adaptations in nature occurs because of crypsis, which is camouflage or mimicry. Cryptic animals are those which camouflage perfectly with their environment and are almost impossible to detect. Certain reptiles or insects, such as chameleons or stick insects, may spring to mind at being particularly good at this type of animal adaptation. Another reason for this and many other adaptations is for evasion of predators. For example, snowshoe hares' fur changes from brown in the summer to white in the winter. The adaptation helps it blend in or camouflage into its environment, thus avoiding being eaten. And the monarch butterfly is poisonous, which leads it to not having very many predators. Another butterfly, called a viceroy, is very similar in physical appearance to the monarch, but is not poisonous. Both are very similar to each other, but the viceroy enjoys more protection from predators because of its mimicry. What about predators? Predators use their adaptations, such as sharp claws and teeth of a lion, to help find and catch its prey. Like zebras, lions also have camouflage coloring to blend into their surroundings. But in the lion's case, it hides in the grass to stalk its dinner. Animals can also adapt to their habitat by working together. This is called symbiosis. For example, in African safaris, birds called oxpeckers sit on the backs of zebras and pick off lice and other bugs. It's food for the oxpeckers, and the zebras can get rid of pests. Structural adaptations also help animals obtain food. Hummingbirds, for example, have long, skinny beaks that help them pick the nectar deep inside the flowers. This special structure adaptation, with the ability to hover because of a special joint in their wings, make the hummingbirds a very specialized species. Since it can use a food source that most birds cannot, it doesn't need to compete with other birds for food. Other birds have interesting beak adaptations to help them gather food. Pelicans have large pouch-like beaks to scoop up fish. Hawks have hook-like beaks to rip apart prey. In all of these cases, their specialized beaks help the animal survive. Giant anteaters are amazing creatures found in the Central and South American forests and in savannas. Even though they are called anteaters, they also consume termites. Their ant-based diet differs from that of its closest living relative, the sloth, who is a dedicated plant eater. Since they don't need to chew their prey, giant anteaters have long, narrow skulls and extremely thin jaws and no teeth. They feed by using their enormous front claws to rip open termite mounds and tear bark off of tree trunks. Then, deploying their long, sticky tongues, they snag their insects inside. These anteaters have special musculature that allows them to flick their tongues in and out over 150 times a minute. The idea of the anteater snagging its food made me think about our game we're going to play. In your kits, you're going to find an anteater mask that you can color, some string for tying it to your head, a party horn, a piece of Velcro, and paper insects. Attach the string to the mask by tying or taping it to the sides of the mask. Unroll the party horn and attach the scratchy piece of the Velcro to the very end of the paper. Attach the soft piece of the Velcro to the paper insects. And the game is to see how fast you can capture the insects. As an anteater, will your skills catching insects help you survive better than that of your fellow anteaters? Can you adapt your behavioral skills to be more successful the next time? Well, I hope you've had fun learning about animal adaptation and playing the anteater game. Our next Science Rocks will be in September, where hopefully we'll be in person. Until then, stay curious. Bye for now.